The X106 is so popular that if you want one, you're going to be on a wait list for a couple of months, or you're going to pay a lot over retail price. Now, I have the X-Pro1. This is a 14-year-old camera, but is it good enough to replace an X106? Well, I do use this for some client work. However, for the past few weeks, I've been treating it as if it were an X100 camera, taking it everywhere and just seeing if it's good enough to be the X106 replacement. With this 27mm pancake lens from TT Artisan, I can get this X-Pro1 to be a pretty close match to the X100 series cameras. One, it's super cheap, so this combo cost under $400 when I bought it. Two, this lens actually has autofocus. And then three, it actually kind of looks like an X100 series camera. From far away, if you didn't know what they look like, I bet I can convince you this was an X106 camera. The X106 is a camera you'll want to take everywhere. Like team practices. If I still had practice, I would definitely take that camera, take some fun pictures of myself, of the coaches, of my teammates. But even now, when I go kick around by myself or with Bree, I now take this camera and just get some fun pictures of us messing around, kicking around, having fun. And it's great to just have pictures to post on Instagram, on your stories, and all your socials. Now, a con with this X-Pro1 and this lens is that the autofocus is very, very bad, especially compared to the new X106 camera. However, going to kick around, having fun is very casual, so I'm not expecting to nail every shot, and it's not critical for me to hit every shot. Having this combo for under $400, I think it's fair to expect that it is going to miss some shots. The X106 is a camera that you'll want to bring to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's a really good foodie camera. It's small, it's compact, and it even has ND filters, 4 stops of ND in case you're outside. And the X-Pro1 also is pretty small and compact, and you'll probably not get any weird looks if you bring the X-Pro1 with you. However, it doesn't have any ND filters built in. I don't think most cameras do, and the X-Pro1 is one of them. So if you can quickly adjust your settings, then it shouldn't really be an issue. However, if you want a camera that you can basically keep, for the most part, on auto, and have available ND filters, then you'll definitely want to go with the X106 camera, not the X-Pro1. I don't typically bring ND. I can adjust my settings pretty quickly and still get good results. So just keep in mind that an X-Pro1, 14 years old, is not going to have the same conveniences as the X106. This lens basically lives on the X-Pro1. This is my TT Artisan 35mm all manual lens paired with my everyday filter Bipolar Pro, and this was another super cheap Amazon pickup. But honestly, I can say that I've gotten some of my favorite photos with this lens and the X-Pro1. And I love that I can change lenses on the X-Pro1 just because there are so many cheap lenses out there, and they keep coming out with them from companies like 7 Artisan, TT Artisan, Bright & Star. There's a lot out there, and honestly, this is one of my favorite lenses ever. The X-Pro1 is going to be more for someone who likes or wants to set all their settings manually. Even with an autofocus lens, I wouldn't really trust it, and I would still want to manually set all my settings, which does make it hard to get pictures of yourself. And also, you can't really just hand over the camera, especially if you have an all manual lens. Bree and I went to just ride the boosted board and the one wheel. We were just messing around, taking some pictures, and I really couldn't just hand her the camera. She's not a camera person, so she only knows the basics of what I've taught her. So she's not gonna nail focus every time, and if it's overexposed or underexposed, she doesn't know how to adjust all that on the fly. So again, it just makes it harder to hand the camera over to someone. If you're someone that wants to be in front of the camera, probably not a camera for you, but I like to be behind the camera. I like to manually adjust all my settings, so the X-Pro1 is a really, really good camera for myself. So another con, and it just comes with the age, is the screen. This is a nice old 14-year-old roughed up screen. And I bet those X106 cameras have some nice, clear, bright screens. Not this one. This one, it's old, it's rough, especially in the sunlight, direct sunlight, bright conditions. It is hard to see. You really need to know what you're doing with this camera if you want to nail focus, if you want to expose correctly, because it's very hard to see on the screen. But honestly, the challenge and the process to me is fun. It makes me feel like I earned that photo. It's not just pointing the camera, snapping, and you got the photo. You actually have to go through the process, and it just makes it a little bit more challenging. And then, like I said, it makes you feel like you earned the photo. A little off topic, but I feel like boba really got popular in 2023. I feel like it was super popular, super trendy. Maybe it was just me, maybe I missed its rise, but that's when I started seeing it the most. So if you're gonna go get a super trendy drink like boba, you're gonna take your super trendy camera like the X100VI, or in my case, the super past its day X-Pro1. And the reason I went to go get boba is because I wanted to use this brand new lens I just got. It's by Bright & Star. It's 60mm. It is a macro lens. This is another cheap Amazon lens, under $200. I think it was $170 if I can remember correctly. But the reason I wanted to get some photos with this lens, with boba, is because boba usually has some interesting textures, boba in there. So I thought it'd be fun to try this macro lens with the boba. I have had this lens for a few weeks now, and I am the videographer and photographer for the Sin City Bartender, and we did a round of short form content where we also take a picture of every drink we make. And I was using this lens a lot. I really like this lens. I think you can get some really creative shots with it. At first, I never really wanted a macro lens because I thought it was just super detailed shots that I didn't really think I had any use for. But if you really get creative, you can get some really fun shots. And so far, I've been loving using this lens. Again, a big pro of the X-Pro1, interchangeable lenses. You can try out new styles. You can try out new focal lengths. So you can just get a little bit more creative. And with these super cheap lenses, I think it's really worth it. Now, I know with the X100VI, there's adapters you can crop in, but it can be super expensive, and cropping in just isn't the same as changing the focal length. So again, the X-Pro1, one of the biggest pros is that you can change the lenses. The X100VI on paper is definitely the superior camera. However, the X-Pro1, not as far behind as I thought, especially for it being 14 years old. Now, don't get me wrong, if I had the option of getting X100VI without waiting months or paying hundreds of dollars over retail price, I would definitely consider it, especially because of all the video options that it has. And video is just something that I don't even touch on the X-Pro1. Overall, I think both of these cameras are really good. The X100 cameras are going to be more for the person that wants to do a little bit more point and shoot, not adjusting settings all the time. And the X-Pro1 is going to be for someone who's a little bit more of a camera nerd. They want to and like to adjust settings manually, like myself. And if you're okay with that, then the X-Pro1 can be a super cheap, a super fun alternative to a more expensive X100 camera. All right, leave me some questions down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.